Native Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
Now I want to go way back to 1992, the year Nirvana's Nevermind went #1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 charts. Sinead O'Connor stirred up controversy by ripping a picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live. You remember that? And Bill Clinton defeated George Bush in the presidential election. But before all that happened, this happened on my show. That was then Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton belting out a soulful rendition of Heartbreak Hotel on my show, the Arsenio Hall Show, that changed presidential campaigning forever.
Welcome home, everybody. This is Tiffany Cross, Angela Rye, and me. And I don't know if they're on my left or my right, but I did point to my left and my right. Welcome, y'all. This is a quick mini pod we wanted to get into with you all as we talk about, are there spaces that are below the belt, a little too gutter for our presidential candidates to go? Where do they go to talk to as many people as they can? We're interested in hearing each other's thoughts on that, and maybe you all can weigh in too. Angela, what you got? What do you think? Set this up for us.
Well, I think first of all, there should be no place really off limits to reach voters. I do think that that comes with some contingencies. I think that we should never put our candidates in harm's way. I think that there are some platforms where they want to go viral or make a name for themselves. And so in those instances, it's probably not the best. I think one thing that I've been particularly interested to see is there is a new conservative platform, or a newish conservative platform called Rumble. This guy, DJ Academics, has been paid to go on Rumble, and earlier this year said that he was going to be streaming on Rumble from Trump's crib. And I don't know if Donald Trump is going to go on Rumble with him, but that's interesting to me. To me, you know, when folks don't have any political background whatsoever, what role should they really play? And I think that's a conversation that both sides of the aisle really should be having. We've spent a lot of time focusing on influencers and their role in campaigns. And I'm almost of the school of thought now where I believe the role of an influencer has an outsized place and focus on campaigns, to this in the same ways in which we talked about on our last podcast, money, right? And so there are some folks who are niche influencers or micro influencers, are targeted and specific and know politics very well. I think those folks who are educated in the space, have political background, and have some political acumen should have more influence over the electorate than folks who sometimes do. Like, I'm actually really irritated about 50 Cent and the role that he's played in this election. I'm irritated, frankly, with some of the things that Ice Cube did last cycle. And I wish that if they were to engage, that they took the time to sit down with folks who do this work every single day, like we do when we're talking about hip hop, or like we do when we're talking about making movies or making shows. I just think anyone can have an opinion. You're a voter. You have every right to weigh in exactly how you see fit. But I would like to see them yoke up and link up with folks who actually know the space a little bit more. I do think that to be in pop culture and find people who don't watch cable news, especially with those numbers decreasing every single day, I think it's worth it to go meet people where they are. And this won't be the first time that folks went to go meet people where they are. We know that we played the clip earlier of Bill Clinton going on Arsenio Hall and playing the saxophone. I think that earned him the title, the first black president. I would like to correct history and say our first black president was, in fact, Barack Hussein Obama. But that's what made him.
Allegedly.
Yeah. No. Don't come on, Donald Trump. Come on, Donald Trump. Don't do me.
We used to, growing up, we used to debate, Lincoln was black, wasn't he? I'm like, you know what? He might have some. Funny. I'm joking.
Not if you ask Frederick Douglass, okay?
I know my history, anyway. Who was also biracial, but yes.
What do you mean also? I mean, Abraham, come on. Anyway, back to the point. The point is, please go reach people like Andrew who spread misinformation on podcasts. Go talk to them and can fact check and get the record straight.
Anyway, it's lighthearted. It's lighthearted.
It shows though how far we've come though, because the fact that I think it was 91 when Bill Clinton went on Arsenio Hall, and that was a huge deal. But now for a presidential candidate to go on a late night talk show is not that big a deal. I remember when Bill Clinton was there playing the saxophone and he had on the glasses, and it was so big. And look, the elephant in the room at the time was he didn't just go on a late night talk show. It wasn't Johnny Carson. He went on with a black late night talk show, and Arsenio Hall was, woo, 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 like the big and the first to do it. Yeah, he was the first to do it at that time. What was interesting, though, is George H.W. Bush had refused to go on Arsenio Hall, and he made some sort of comment about it. I can't remember, but Arsenio Hall in his stand-up a few days later, clapped back at President Bush and was like, ain't nobody invite your irregular heart beatings. And he had just had like some sort of heart condition or something. But the audience went wild. But the thing is, it made Bill Clinton more accessible. And I just want to say the person who donned him, the first black president, was our luminary, Toni Morrison, who we love. So, it did resonate with some people. Obviously, he's not our first black president, and his policies were not always in our favor, as history can rewrite itself. But I like the point that Angela was making about where people get their news. As a journalist, I read the trades every morning, and just this week, and Pointer highlighted, there's every day there's some big news platform that's collapsing or having layoffs, and just this week they highlighted that readers are increasingly getting their news from influencers. That frightens me because I've seen these influencers, and because you have a lot of followers does not a journalist make. Even though there can be intelligent and intellectual people, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, there is training to go and figure out how to present a story with all the pertinent, accurate information that is unbiased, but can still honor the community, that is not confusing. You're not, speaking inside baseball. You're presenting, both sides of a story, not nonsense, but both sides of an accurate story. And so when I see people, it kind of gives this false inflated sense of intellect that's not really there. Because it's like, oh, well, I saw this person say it on TikTok. And so now I'm informed about this topic that I got while they were, doing a little dance and gave it to me in 30 seconds. And that's not always the case. You guys, I feel like, well, Andrew, you anyway, have I try to strike a balance because I don't want to be elitist. Like, you only have to get your news from the Times, because that's a problem too. And I feel like, to Angela's point, these cable news platforms, you ask for it. You ask for people to tune out. When you summarily ignored our communities forever, then of course people were going to start getting their news and information someplace else. Right. So there is some legitimacy to going into some of these spaces that some people may thumb their nose at, but it's like, as we are increasingly ignored by these mainstream platforms that only platform people that make white people comfortable, then you got to go out and talk to people in a different way. And I'm torn with the influencer piece because, I was super annoyed too, Angela, with Ice Cube and the plan he came out with. And people were like, oh my God, Ice Cube's a genius. I'm like, have y'all ever heard of actual think tanks and members of the Congressional Black Caucus? And this is not the first time these things were asked for. There's also the gaming industry. There are, I think that was a place in 2000, I want to say 16 is the first time that was utilized. And Black people are the second largest demographic to participate in gaming industry. So on platforms like Twitch, which Amazon bought for, I can't remember how much, I wrote about it in my book, but like $1 billion, like $916 million. And the Black folks are the second largest demographic, and there wasn't really a lot of people engaging them there. So I think we have to go meet people. Angela, I think your perspective, though, is go into some of these more hostile environments and make your case. Show up to the fight. Nuck if you buck, I'm showing up. That one, I think there's some legitimacy to that. But then I wonder, is that the role of a surrogate? Do you send a Mayor Pete in there and not necessarily the candidate, or does that take away? It's like you sent your boy to fight me. You ain't even come to fight me yourself. I don't know. I'm still torn on that.
I think I'm probably oddly enough, very liberal on this because I think you go everywhere by and large. I think the rules of the game have changed drastically. I mean, I remember, Tiff, as you pointed out, the breaking news of Bill Clinton on late night with a black host and what that did for him. And it made him relevant in the culture in a different kind of way. Before we were referring to it as relevant in the culture. Today, though, my issue with it, first of all, if you're a citizen, you're in America, you're breathing, you can have an opinion, you can have choice, you can have all those things, and you can have your own reasons for why it is you're doing what it is you're doing politically. So I can't begrudge people who go down that road. I've said it before, I'll say it again. 50 Cent, he and I may share complexion, but that's kind of probably where it's at. We're in a different tax bracket. He's got a whole nother world of concerns and care, or frankly, I got a whole different kind of world of concern and bills and so on, and tax brackets and so on and so forth. And so when I see people like him move, I don't attribute it to be in our collective community best interests. I think he's got other things at bay here. I may not know what they are. He may be for Trump because Trump is trying to reduce taxes on people who are in his bracket. He may be trying to open up in some golf courses, another side hustle or a new business venture. We never know what it is that these folks have going that necessitates how they move, particularly in political spaces. Yeah. I don't assign anymore, and I think I probably at one point did assign when I saw black people whose names I recognized, mostly to your point, Angela, who were in the political space. Maxine Waters was a queen and a god to me, in middle school. Mm-hmm. And if she said it, it was truth, it was Bible, it was law. And she got there by good consideration that had me in mind when she said this was going to be good for us. I've long divorced myself from that belief. And I think our community has grown in many ways sophisticated enough to hear a celebrity or an influencer say something and then to process through the recesses of their mind whether or not it works for them or not.
I don't know about that.
But guess what? And those who aren't likely aren't impacting the process in the way that we think they should be anyway, like i.e. voting, talking about voting in the candidates that you support and the reasons why you do it. The largest influence, and research substantiates this, comes from your person-to-person contacts, relationships with people around moving them to the ballot box. Yeah.
If it doesn't, we saw a different story in 2016, Andrew. I don't
think so. I thought in 2016 what we saw were influencers held then the role that they hold now, which is they bring attention largely to a candidate or an issue or a situation that might otherwise go unmerited. That's what I think influencers bring as a value to a campaign. That I was a struggling candidate in a primary and I needed anybody to put eyes on me that would. And once they put eyes on me, maybe then the regular voter would say, I didn't know about that cat. Let me find out more. But they weren't saying, I'm going to vote for him because Cardi B said go do it.
No, that's
true.
I'm
going to look for him because Cardi B said.
Well, can I ask you a question? Well, both of you guys. OnlyFans. Let's say it's somebody out there. She reads 3 million people a month on OnlyFans doing all kinds of shit.
So if I got to go play with her little toe.
No, sir. You cannot go
on OnlyFans. Okay, so there is a line. Are we sending our candidate on OnlyFans?
I don't think that you send the candidate to OnlyFans. I think that you can have the OnlyFans talent do a video on OnlyFans and say, like, I know you thought this was what you was going to get today, but let me tell you instead, this is why I'm going to vote for such and such.
Actually, that's a good idea.
It is a great idea. But here's
By
the
way,
other...
the DNC just credentialed like 20, 40 influencers, content creators, as official folks at the convention to be.
They should. And here's why.
I agree.
A third of young people under 30 get their news from TikTok. So that's exactly what they should do. Yeah. The question is, how do the candidates and the campaigns engage these folks? I think part of what we see happening that is a challenge is people try to use 1990s tactics with new media. And that's the part that doesn't ring true. That's the part that strikes inauthentic. We don't need Kamala Harris on Kai Cenat trying to say stuff like him, be like, what game you playing though? Let me get on that NBA 2K with you or whatever it is. I don't even know what the game is called. Yeah. So it's like you have to make sure that they still ring true. There's a video that's gaining traction of Kamala Harris saying that she makes a mean pot of greens, and one time she had to make so many greens for Christmas that they had to wash them in the bathtub, and the dude was like saying she's lying. It probably is very true. I prefer using a Sterilite plastic tub, but I understand exactly what you're saying. I just can't unsee ass in my greens. I can't unsee it. Yeah. But I just think that there are ways that we can reach folks, and it is authentic. I believe Hillary Clinton when she said she had hot sauce in her bag. I don't believe it was from a Beyonce lyric. I believe that Kamala really cooked a mean batch of greens and a bunch of other things. There are people, though, who are frustrated that Kamala recently had Meg Thee Stallion twerking at a rally. I didn't mind it. I thought there were some young folks that it could reach. It was in Atlanta. She had Quavo talking about gun violence. Yeah. I also can say I would have preferred, though, her sitting down to talk with Meg about what happened with her and Tory Lanez and what she did as a prosecutor to quell domestic violence, what she did as a senator, what type of legislation she introduced, what she's going to do as president. Not really. Meghan. It requires Meg telling. No, it requires Meg telling her story, which she's done several times. And I think it would have probably gone over a little better, perhaps, than it did with the Gayle King interview because of how Kamala is approachable in those one-on-ones. She did a great thing during her 2020 bid where a bunch of us sat down with her on criminal justice reform. Some really influential people. It was a small round table. Every influencer conversation isn't about a celebrity. It is about people who exist and are incredible and notable in certain subject matter, have certain expertise. She could do more of those conversations.
I agree. I'm just saying with certain celebrities, we are asking people to do a lot in those reveals. And so some are more comfortable with a couple of seconds. I'm with my girl, and I'm down for her.
Oh, I see.
And I'm fine with that. And for those who are willing to engage.
I didn't even reference that.
Yeah. But for people who are willing to engage and give more of themselves to illuminate for their followers why it is that you're there. For instance, Cardi B talking about goddamn Obamacare when she said just so we could go and get our look. I was like, this is some hard stuff. I love this. Yeah. It was, I'm sorry. I absolutely loved it. And I became a follower of her after seeing her do that because she spoke as plain spoken as any of us would be. Just the way that I talked and laughed, jokingly about Abraham Lincoln. It's because some of my boys, we laugh about that. He kind of brown. Maybe it's the pictures.
You still gonna bring this back up?
Let me tell you, I know the history. I know what the facts are, but that isn't the way regular people engage in conversation. Folklore can take 20 trips around the block before the truth gets won. Right? And so I'm just saying reason why you engage.
Cardi, not Abe. That's all I'm asking for.
All I'm saying is people.
Let me run that old thing back. No.
We talk as regular people in ways that we may not speak to each other at the live show. Right? We will get close to it, but we won't be that. And I'm just saying we have to make these environments as comfortable as we can for people because we're asking them to engage personally.
Yeah.
Not on behalf of. We're saying you go take the time to vote and put your stamp on it. And that is an extension that half the country doesn't make right now.
Yeah.
And there's a reason.
Yep. I hear that. You said that we don't do that in the live show, and I asked why not. I know that's probably a different
I said
podcast.
We do, but I don't say some of the stuff,
But
some
I
of the
want
words
us to figure out
why.
Because
there are words that I shouldn't say, and I don't want to hear my mom and my mother-in-law come at me.
I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's about it.
As long as your authenticity don't slip.
But that's always going to be real. I may present it slightly more appropriately, but it is what it is. I just think we're long past the time of, pearl clutching around who performed at such and such as rally and who they got a verbal endorsement from.
But that was legit for some people. There were some people who really didn't like it.
It may have been, and I don't take issue with them. I think she got more than what she didn't get. I think she got more than what she lost.
I think that's very fair.
And that's the analysis that I think people have to, sometimes have to go through.
You got to make a calculation.
You guys remember when that state legislator was twerking and people had a fit?
I remember. I knew that legislator. Yes.
Yes.
No, you knew her? Was she in
And we defended her at the national.
Was she in YEO?
NBJC. No.
I defended her on my show at the time because I feel like, listen, as the elected leaders get younger and younger, like we have to get rid of some of these purity tests, you know? And it's like, we are full human beings who have full lives. And, we didn't grow up. Well, thank God, there was no Instagram during Freaknik in Atlanta. We didn't grow up with our homecoming, being played on TikTok, So now as we have people, unless you lived your whole life like a robot, there's going to be some things out there that you did or do. And I think our social norms and mores adjust, and we're going to have to adjust.
Just know this, y'all. You may think it's a good idea for you to do, but you also have to be prepared to deal with the consequences. That could be a voter who is now pissed as hell at you and will no longer be voting for you.
That's it.
It could be a classroom of kids who say, I never heard of you before, but when you was twerking and talking about the college loan forgiveness and how to apply, like I got my life because I watched you twerk and got the instructions on how to apply. I don't know what that looks like. All I'm saying is you make the choices that are consistent with you. You can feel at home in that choice because you will have to be at home in that choice when you have to deal with the consequences of it. That's all I'm saying.
I hear that.
Good Minipod, guys.
Y'all. We out of here. Twerk for your loan forgiveness, y'all. Thanks for listening. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tune in.
Andrew, let's add that to the list of things you should never say again.
Welcome home, y'all.
What? Twerk for your loan forgiveness?
Oh, God. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.